Hi, it's Dr. Sandi Queen with Queen Homeschool Supplies, and I'm here to continue my series on the Charlotte Mason approach to language arts. Over the last 3 days, I've covered different topics, the different steps of language arts in a Charlotte Mason style education. So if you haven't seen those, I would recommend going back in this group and watching those videos. Step number 1 is simply reading good quality living books with your children, and in the video that I did on that, I discuss what living books are and how to determine what is a living book. The second step would be narration. The third would be copywork, and today we're going to talk about the fourth step, which is dictation. And these steps are all covered in great detail in our little book on language arts, a Charlotte Mason approach, which you can find on our website at queenhomeschool.com. So I want to talk about dictation. Dictation, as you may realize, it's very simple. It's just you reading something aloud to your child and them writing it down as you read it. So the child is not looking at it, you're looking at it, and you're the one doing the reading aloud. You're the one who pauses when there's a comma or a period or such, and the child is just writing it down. After they have written it down, then they go back and look at what you read from and make any needed corrections. And there's a very good reason why at Queen Homeschool Supplies we do not recommend doing dictation with children until they are in mid to upper junior high and older. If you look in our language lessons books, which teach, well, in the very lower levels, the little ones books, they're teaching phonics. And then from the very young on up through the upper level books, they're teaching grammar, writing instruction. You will find copywork throughout the books for the element in the very young, the elementary, and even the secondary books. But once we get to the high school books, and even in some of the two secondary child books, you'll see we start to implement dictation as well. And in the high school books, we move completely to dictation, along with the courses in instructive writing and all the other stuff that's included in the language lessons books, which you can see free samples of and print them out from our website at queenhomeschool.com under the language arts area there. But in the books for older kids, we switch to dictation. And the reason we don't at Queen Homeschool Supplies recommend doing dictation with younger kids is this. If you're looking at the language lessons books for the younger children, you're going to see that they're teaching grammar. They're teaching proper punctuation and capitalization and usage and parts of speech and all that stuff. And as the child is doing the included copywork lessons in those volumes, they are learning those grammar and those punctuation and capitalization rules as they go through those months and months of instruction. Each book has 180 daily lessons, but they are learning when to punctuate certain things and when to capitalize and where to put a period in relation to quotation marks and parentheses and brackets and all that stuff. And then they have copywork, which reinforces that. So throughout those volumes in the language lessons books, they are learning those skills. By the time they get to the language lessons for the high school student books, and there are 4 of them, there's the grammar review volume, which is a complete review of all the grammar that they've learned. There's language lessons for the high school student, the first book there, the very first in that series, or in that level rather, which would be focusing on story writing from start to finish. And then there's volume 2 that you see right here with my daughter Haley on the cover, and this one is focusing on different types of essays, so different styles of writing: expository, descriptive, narrative. And then volume 3, which would have research papers from outlines and footnotes and bibliographies and how to research and writing research papers. Okay, so they have a main focus. But with the exception of the language lessons for the high school student grammar review and more volume, they're not instructing the child in grammar anymore because it's assumed they have mastered that. And that's when we move into dictation as opposed to copywork. Because when a child is doing copywork, something like you would see in one of our thematic copywork books, the copywork lessons are right here. That each day the child has one lesson that they are going to look at and copy over into a separate notebook. but they see it right here. They see those variances in capitalization and punctuation and all those different things that they're copying. When you move to the next level where you are using the same material, whether it's Our Beautiful America or nature lessons for copywork or great hymns for copywork or copywork for boys or lessons from leaders or any of the many volumes that we have in the thematic copywork lesson series, when you graduate from using these for copywork to using these same books later on down the road as dictation lessons, your child has to be able to know those rules well enough that when you are reading them aloud to the child and you pause where you see a comma or a semicolon or a period and then continue reading that sentence to them as they're writing it down without seeing it, they have to know those rules well enough to see them up here and write them down. And when you pause, they hear the rest of that sentence and they determine, oh wait, that's a complete pause there where she's changing the train of thought, so that must be a period rather than a comma. And so they have to know those rules and be familiar enough with them in order for them to have a successful time with dictation with a variety of material. Now, sometimes you'll see dictation used in other curriculums for younger kids. We do not recommend that. If you do, the only way that we would be okay with that, and you're free to do whatever you like, but the only time that I would personally be okay with doing it with younger children would be if it's just something very simple, like one sentence with a capital letter at the beginning and a punctuation mark at the end. Although to me, I would rather see that child doing copy work that gives them something with a variety of things to pay attention to, because that's what they're still honing those particular skills and putting that knowledge into play when they're doing copy work. And again, once they move to an older level where they know those rules well enough, they're not making mistakes in their copy work. They're not making mistakes when they're doing the grammar part of their lower level language lessons books. And you know, okay, now we'll go ahead and we'll try some dictation. And that's also when we start integrating lessons in editing into our high school language lessons books. That's the first time that we ever put incorrectly written material before the child's eyes and give them that opportunity to write things that are incorrect. Hopefully not, but they may when they're doing dictation, because that's when they're old enough to be able to handle that sort of thing. They've had years of practice with grammar instruction and writing instruction, proper placement of punctuation marks and capitalization rules and things like that. So dictation, the fourth step in language arts in a Charlotte Mason style education. And I'm going to continue this video series tomorrow, moving into a different topic other than language arts. So stick with me and I will talk to you tomorrow.